Welcome to my jungle, my blue light jungle. Very, I was gonna say Scorpio vibes, but I don't know if that's the right word. So I want to just jump right into your natal chart. Now that have some momentum after that. 1 second, jump position my computer. Oh God, just killed the camera again! Yay! An ongoing problem. I can't see. Well, anyways, okay. So basically, let's jump right in. So, when I do these readings, sometimes I like to just lay back with my crystals and just get in like a meditative state and like switch back and forth between like showing my face and just having like the screen shared, I guess you could say. So this will enable me to, I think it enables me to channel better. I kind of do it intuitively. So let's dive in the share screen. So Anna. Okay, where's my cushion? There it is. All right, so what do we have here? Well, lots of familiar energies. Oh, okay. So, nice trine with Sun and Moon, Scorpio to Pisces. Nice amount of Scorpio planets in the first house. Ascendant, Sun conjunct Pluto. Damn. And then further on, Venus. So 4 planets in Scorpio. Well, really 3, but in a 29-degree Libra Mercury retrograde in the 12th house. That is a very interesting placement, with also Mars in Libra in the 12th and South Node in the 12th. And then that moon in the 5th house in Pisces. Very interesting. And you got outer sprinkled in the 2nd, 3rd, Jupiter in the 6th, and chart ruler in the 1st. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. And then like the secondary chart ruler or traditional chart ruler in the 12th. So let's dive in. And you got Moon square Saturn, Sun, nothing difficult, Mercury, unaspected Venus. I see that a lot in Scorpio. Okay. And Mars, yeah, I mean, you have some oppositions with Jupiter, but, you know, it's not as big as the 4 outers, including Chiron. Yeah, not many aspects. And I have stopped doing this thing where, not this thing, but I'll like look at a chart really basically and be like, oh, this is an easy chart. You know, there's one what I would consider difficult aspect from outers to personal planets. But a lot of times that's kind of covering up for something. So let's look at this from a different angle. Basically, first thing to speak about is what is the relationship between your sun and your moon? Well, considering they're both in the same element, and also I forgot to mention North Node, obviously, in Aries, which is my readings tend to be very North Node karmically right. I mean, I'm trying to show you how, as I lay back, how to like basically like what the highest version of you is, and also in doing so, um, giving lots of analysis, psychological analysis of what I see in all areas of life. So yeah, so being a Scorpio, first house Scorpio, Pluto on your sun, it gives you especially, yeah, I mean, obviously Scorpio rising, it gives you a tremendous, I mean, I literally just posted this thing in my story that is like made for you. It was like, what was it? It was like some repost that was saying something along the lines of like, if you look at, if if you think someone's lying and you like stop and kind of like look at them in the eyes, you'll be able to know if they're lying or not. And then I was like, this is especially true for like the Scorpio and Capricorn risings. And then it's you with like, it's just funny that I just posted that, and then like you have like this chart that is exactly like that. Midheaven, 8 Leo, conjunct Black Moon. Look, interesting. And then is that best up there or a series? Palace, series, conjunct Neptune and Capricorn. Third house, Juno, okay. All right. So basically, when you look at this, it's quite obvious that the sun and the moon, right, the two, I guess you could say, most important parts, the feminine and masculine part of you, of your being, of your soul, of who you are in this lifetime, are very, they're really going in the same direction. Like they're if there's two captains to the ship that is you, they both have a lot in common. They're both going in a similar place. So there's not like this big like difference, right? So first thing I'll say, like Scorpio first house, first house is Aries. In your north node's Aries too, so that in your north node's 0 degrees Aries actually. So that is very important because that's literally showing that a big part of your life purpose, right, is to really like be kind of fearless and I guess individuate. Like there's been parts of your personality in past lives that have been held back by I would say escapist tendencies, but also codependent tendencies. So just when you're someone who, is there squares to the notes? Is it just Chiron? Okay. So yeah, so when you're someone who in previous incarnations has really just like been almost like lost yourself in the dreamland, but also in the relationship land, right? You've come here to learn boundaries and, in a sense, not selfishness, but learning to put yourself first. That is right. That's shown just by the fact that the first house where your sun is, right? And your Pluto, the ruling planet of your whole chart, which is conjunct your sun, which makes it even more powerful, very powerful. You're what's called Plutonian, right? Um, there's this big drive towards independence within yourself, being your own boss in all areas of life. And as a Scorpio, you've come into this lifetime with a lot of these kind of skills of these Scorpio skills, or whatever you want to call them, like this expertise of understanding human behavior, human psychology. I always call it like the built-in lie detector when I saw a Scorpio. No bullshit meter, another way to put it. And having that in the first, right? It's really showing me that in past lives with the South Node and the 12th, you've always had this deep intuition, this deep imagination, probably some like artistic skills. Let me have some sip of water. You've had like a mix of creativity and imagination, artist. And that's showing, up in this life with that Pisces moon, right? That Pisces moon is so boundless, and it's so in touch with the universe, and so sensitive, right? And sometimes you might feel like too sensitive. You're born in 87, so you've gone through your Saturn return, so you've made that merge into adulthood. Gone through whatever experiences or energies you had to go through, during that Saturn return time. And basically, there's lots of good parts of having a moon in Pisces, but there's also some drawbacks, and especially when your South Node is in Libra. And that speaks to what I was saying before about how you're really, really trying to learn boundaries in this lifetime. Like imagine you in a past life having all this potential. Let's say you have some kind of, I don't know, artistic or creative or even like esoteric, like witchy kind of, that kind of energy within you, but you weren't able. It had to remain hidden, right? Because 12th house, and because of that, it sidelined your development of you understanding you as a person. We can see Saturn in the second house also, which in Sag, which can kind of show that like a big teacher for you in this lifetime is Sagittarius energy, right? Is this energy of trying to find, like, within this search for your own self, right? Because Scorpio is all about like no bullshit, shadow work. It's an ongoing thing, going deep within yourself, to find those resources that can help you learn to surrender, learn to let go, learn to break through cycles, different cycles that have held you back. And it's extremely important as a Scorpio with a Pisces moon to understand that you have all, like, especially Scorpio sun with Pluto on it, right? Because Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, transformation, the planet of power. That there's gonna be one part of you that's gonna be very like, because they're in fire houses, so there's like the water and the fire. is showing up, and the air too, just not the earth, which is like me. But basically, like, basically, when we speak about boundaries, Libra and Pisces are the two signs that lack boundaries the most. And your Mars is still in, your Mars is in this life, it's in Libra. So you still have not just your South Node, but you have an actual energy, a personal planet energy, that speaks to that. And it speaks to a certain, like, especially in the 12th house, a certain indecisiveness, not knowing, like sometimes feeling like the personal power is somewhat eroded, if that makes sense. And your job is to, whether it's through relationships, just your everyday life, is to understand that and to figure out what your truth is, what your truth is as an individual. So this goes back to, let me have some water. The zodiacal story, I made a video about this not too long ago, where in Scorpio, and this goes for every human, but it's showing up in your chart. First, you have 7th house right over here, Libra, then Scorpio, then Sag, right? And then you have Libra, Scorpio, and then, I mean, you don't have Sag in your chart, but you do have that 9th house ruled by your moon, and then Saturn and Sag, which I find important in this chart because basically, like, it starts with Libra, right, where you meet other, where we enter relationships, and this all ties together so beautifully already, or so, like I can already, how many minutes in, I already see like pretty much everything. When you have an unaspected Venus, right, it means that it's not, let me just double check to make sure anything is fixed. Yeah. So when you have an unaspected Venus, it means that your Venus is not being, it's not in any really truly meaningful angular relationships with other planets. And those angular relationships are called aspects, and those are what ultimately, it's like in government where there's like, I need to just 1 second. Okay, very good. So when we have these types of energies, right, it's very important to understand that as you go from Libra, to Scorpio, that's the step of, after you've kind of understood yourself a little bit in relationships, you then go into like the depths of yourself, if that makes sense, right? Which is what Scorpio is. Scorpio is about really just going deep within you, and exploring that terrain, exploring that inner terrain. And from that, and I know I was talking about the aspect of Venus, I'll get back to that in a second. Seeing it, making the unconscious conscious, right? That's why Scorpio people are such natural psychologists, whether it's their job or whether it's just like, how they are as people. They understand the depths like no other sign. they understand, like, some people call it cynical, but really they understand, like, first of all, it starts within themselves. They understand, like, all the bad, and I'm not calling you bad when I say this. I'm saying, like Scorpios understand all the bad that is possible within themselves and that's possible within others. And they have this big push towards diving deep. And then after that, right, eighth house, that's when the ninth house comes, which is like when you've gone into yourself, you've learned, you've gained psychological insight, this, that, and the third. That's when you start to create philosophies and try to figure out, like, what is my truth that I want to live by, right? Where the high like your higher mind gets developed. And then you take that higher mind and you put it into your career, your dharma, what you're really meant to be doing, and it goes on and on. But in order for that to happen, there's a need to get past things that may have hindered us. So when we talk about, like, the seventh, right, we see that we have Mars. It's ruled by Venus, right, which is unaspected. And then there's Mars in Libra. So I'll speak on both of those kind of together a little bit. But basically, when you have an unaspected Venus, right, as I was saying before I got into by my headphones, it can create someone who can become a little bit obsessed with relationships. And Scorpio is already an obsessive sign. So when you have an aspected Venus in Scorpio, it can make you someone who can sometimes, like, deem or, like, judge how well their life is, or like literally like they can literally, like, if you're like, how are you, maybe not in conversation, but just like, and this obviously, like, change, it's not, this is none of this is set in stone. All this is meant to be overcome, and your past, your Saturn return, so I imagine that a lot of that has been overcome. But and there's multiple sides to the Venus, aspect of Venus, right? But from a love perspective, yeah, it definitely can make one, like, so so set on that is the end all be all. So then when we had the Mars in 12th house in Libra, and the fact that the 7th house of, relationships is ruled by this unaspected Venus, Mars in Libra is a very indecisive energy, right? Mars is your source of power. It's like your masculine energy. So a lot of people who have 12th house Marses, they sometimes feel like their sense of personal power is somewhat eroded. And there's this big need, because the 12th house is very, very spiritual too, and it relates to your Pisces moon, because 12th house is Pisces, Neptune. There's this need to, like, kind of not there's lots of self-sabotage that can play out, especially in relationships. And because it's so close to your South Node, the same sign, what can happen is that you can, like, go back. So South Node is not bad, right? It's just like kind of like the been there, done that past, like, tendency. So you've mastered, in a sense, like, lesson, like you've been the person who's sacrificed for relationships, right? Because 12th house is sacrifice. So you sacrificed a lot of your own individualization and your own, I guess, growth. One sec. There will be lots of water drinking for this reading. So yeah, there's like this like, you sacrifice a lot of your own being, of your own, like, I don't want to say star power, but just like potential, like, as an individual, for the sake of relationships that probably weren't doing you that much good. So, like, to combat that, and also having, you know, the retrograde Mercury in Libra, there's this big tendency for people pleasing, right? And lacking boundaries. And that totally ties into your Pisces moon, which I'll go into, of course. So when you lack that, it can be very, very difficult to say no, to not stay in relationships that are no longer serving you. And it can be very easy to someone with your chart to slip back into to that kind of way of being, right? Because like the relationship life, it just feels so natural, and it comes so naturally that that there's that risk. Esmond, stop. Go away from my computer, Esmond. Esmond, you're scaring me. Stop. My cat was gonna jump on my computer. She's still so interested in it. Why are you so interested? You don't have anything in common with her chart. I guess you're a Pisces rising with Neptune rising. Oh, I guess I always get synchronicities from my cats during readings. She's probably like speaking about Neptune. She wants me to talk a lot about Neptune, which is not making any big aspects, but it rules your moon, and you know you have lots of 12th house. So Neptune is about delusions, right? It's about high, well, on so this is very important for you. It's you know, on the high end, it's about high spirituality, right? Which that Scorpio energy is pushing you towards as well, and the Pisces moon is wants you to push you towards. And this goes for the Neptune energy and your Pisces moon. So the low end is like self-delusion, fooling yourself in a way. The high end is high spirituality, deep understanding of yourself, deep understanding of the divine and oneness and spirituality and everything connected to that. Now, that is the big obstacle, right? Because as a Pisces moon, and even before that, like a Mercury retrograde 29 degrees Libra, you know, it's a critical degree, 29, last degree, in the 12th house. It's really, you know, retrograde Venus people, especially in the 12th, like they can really have trouble speaking their truth. And they can be very introverted. And it goes right back to your, of course, always connects. This is such a beautiful chart. This is such like a perfect, I can already tell this is a perfect chart, like in terms of like my reading of it. So your Chiron, right, which represents like your wound, is in Gemini, which Gemini is about what? It's about communicating. So it's speaking. And then you have Neptune also in the third house of Gemini, which creates a sort of vagueness around that very thing. Thinking, communicating, all that. So as a Mercury retrograde, natally, like you will feel as though like, oh, in a past life, and it's definitely you either under spoke, you didn't have your voice enough, or you did the opposite. And in this case, it's obvious to me that you know that you underspoke. You didn't have your own back. You didn't speak up when you needed to speak up. You didn't defend yourself and your honor. You may have, you know, let people step all over, or, you know, especially in the context of relationships, step all over you. And that probably put you in a dark place, a place of escapism, right? Where you may have lived in like a dream world as opposed to living in reality. So basically, in this lifetime, the first mission is through that deep scorpionic dive within to see those self-defeating behaviors, to understand them, and focus on your relationships and on seeing how, in what ways you put up with stuff that you shouldn't be putting up with, right? Because the relationships are really the thing that can get in the way of you like diving into this like extremely like strong scorpionic power, right? And it's another thing we have to talk about is power, because you have Pluto in your sun, especially in Scorpio. It's like you have this immense power. People notice it, especially the Scorpio rising. When you enter a room, you might not say, you don't have to say much, but people notice you. People pick up on that deep energy, not to be fucked with energy, see all energy. So step one is understanding these things I'm talking about. Because like with the retrograde, as I was saying, and how it relates to the Chiron wound, you may have at an early age had like a very different thought process, learning style, something along those lines, right? That just kind of made you a little bit different than maybe the other kids. Maybe it was in your own family with that moon square Saturn. Maybe your mother was quite critical of you. Maybe she just had like a way different way of nurturing you. Like just different, like maybe she was like just like all Capricorn, or I don't even know, just like I'm not saying she was. I'm just saying it's an example, like where she like she just had energy that made it very difficult for her to understand that Pisces moon depth, right? Like Pisces moon are so sensitive. They they you know they like to like their imaginations are boundless, and it really kind of speaks to how they go through life, right? And the key is to make those very those very moments of inspiration, downloads that you receive from who knows where, right? It's turning those into assets, right? But yeah, with the Mercury retrograde, a lot of people they can be quite shy, and with the Chiron, it can make you really doubt your own. It's in the eighth house also, is so interesting. So doubt your own level of intelligence, your own thought process, stuff like that. And it's problematic because it goes back to that first problem I was talking about. Not having your own back. Mars and Libra people, they can have so much trouble like figuring out like what the right decision is, like what they want to do, that they just default and let the other person. So that's huge. And Pisces moon need to spend a lot of time alone. And 12th house people in general, like yourself, you're like a Plutonian and a Neptunian, right? And the Plutonian part of you is all about power. It's all about death, rebirth, transformation. And like I said, we'll speak about the power part in a little bit. But the Neptunian part is like about, are you going to be like in self-delusion? Are you going to be living in the dream world, in your imaginary world of like everything's okay when it's not? Or are you going to take a North Node in Aries, which is like asking you to just be a boss, be a warrior, be a fearless individual who makes decisions that might not please everyone, but they're for your greater good, right? So it's like, are you going to be that? or are you gonna be someone that kind of just gets pushed around by, like, it's like, do you want to be like a big solid rock that regardless of the weather doesn't get moved? I think of like a rock like in the, like, kind of like on the beach, or like in, like, on the shore of the ocean or the sea. And do you want to be like that, or do you want to be like a little small gravel rock that just gets pushed around by everything? So the Pisces Moon individual, so it's very important relationships, right? Choosing the right partners, and even like like BFFs, best friends, the people, your environment, all that stuff is so important to you, because you, as a Pisces Moon, you're so sensitive that you will take in so much, and you might also take in stuff, like emotional stuff, that isn't yours. And what can happen, and we'll talk about how the Scorpio Pluto can is meant to alleviate this, is that more dominant, definitely incompatible forces can kind of dictate and kind of push you into like it can attract like kind of like narcissistic types potentially, right? And when you have that energy, another water break. I did a really, really long reading, a family reading, like a few hours ago. I took like a good break in between. So when I talk a lot, I have to drink water. My throat gets all messed up. But yeah, like basically, the Pisces Moon, like, it's so important for them to understand that who they select to be with is going to have a massive impact on them. And it goes back to the relationship, most likely with the mother, whoever the moon represents in the chart, in the sense that, I guess, like it's only in those moments of quiet and peace and almost like nothingness that you can really find yourself, right? You can't be a loner, of course. I mean, that's no one's goal, especially with Northern Aries. That's like a fire sign, and you're being pushed that direction. But you don't have any fire in your chart. You just have fire houses. Um, I mean, you have Jupiter, but that's like a middle planet. Talking about inner planets, but basically, like, it's about being that rock, right? So defeating that energy of letting other people run your life. And that, where does that come from? Well, you look at the opposite sign of your South Node in Libra, which is Aries. Aries is a fearless energy. It's a first energy of the zodiac, right? It's it's your degrees north. It's really representing like a new cycle for you, a new karmic cycle, where this time around you're really, really meant to, I guess you could say, you're really, really meant to, as I've said many times, make some decisions that might not feel so comfortable. Now, with that said, I want to say also, that in that alone time, that's when that scorpionic process occurs, and that's when you dive deep into shadow work, and you actually, whether it's through like a therapist or through me, people, I actually do therapy too, by the way, astrological based therapy, if you're ever interested. I should probably advertise that, but I never do. Yeah, basically there's a massive need to be in touch with your imagination and in partnerships to, as a Pisces moon, defines, first of all, find someone that I'm not saying that they have to have like a certain element or they don't have that. It's not like you have to find a Scorpio, you have to find a Capricorn. It's nothing like that. It's more like finding someone who's like a solid rock, and because Pisces moon is a water moon, you'll be very, very impacted by, as I said, by your environment, by the people you surround yourself with, by the place you live, all that stuff. So someone who will give you that space that you need during times you need it, who will understand kind of the inner cues, I guess you could say, right? The inner cues of times when you just need to be left the fuck alone. And it's not easy, but it exists. And yeah, like it's huge. So having boundaries is massive for you. So then we see that, right? So that's kind of like once that's overcome by as I was saying about Aries, it's like that strong energy, that warrior energy, that energy of just like I don't give a shit. It's a little bit impulsive. It starts things, right? It's about self-starting. It's about being decisive, right? Which is like the opposite of Libra. Libra is always trying to balance out, what's right, like how to make everyone else happy. It's like the diplomat, but on a low energy, it's the people pleaser, the person who um, allows people to step over them, and you know, and they lose out on a lot of their life purpose and their higher energy because of that very thing. So very, very important to understand that and to move past that. So like with the relationship thing, it's like you want to be that rock I've described, but you need someone who is gonna really be like that themselves. Someone that you can trust no matter what. Someone who, like, let's say like as a Pisces moon, undoubtedly, you go through, this like you're very impacted by many things, many people, many situations, many environments. Someone who understands that and sensitive to that, and who like sees the magic in the Pisces moon. Like there's so much magic, it's so much creativity, and it's like this so much empathy and compassion, right? It's a gift to the Pisces moon. So um when I see that your Juno, which represents, I always look at Juno as like the ideal partner, what you really, really want, like really, really like desire, like if in a like a real like lifetime partner in Aquarius in the fourth house, it mixes together this need for, like, you want your partner to feel like home, if that makes sense, like metaphorically. I know as a Pisces moon, I can speak in my own metaphors because you'll get all of them. Um, So yeah, the partner needs to feel like home, but also Aquarius is about freedom. It's about space. So it's like very, very important to have someone who allows you to individuate, who doesn't like take away from that, who doesn't try to dominate you, who, you know, doesn't try to like gaslight you or whatever words, manipulate you, like you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Someone who encourages your own freedom. And also someone who, you know, where there's a real intellectual connection, like a connection of the minds, who gets you really, and someone who has their own shit going on. Because like with your chart, like you can attract people who cling to you, like energy vampires, right? And being able to have like being a Scorpio, you have this really, in Pisces Moon, this really amazing intuition. But what can happen is that, especially like when you have this Mercury retrograde and this Chiron the 8th in Gemini, you can start to think, you can start to not try. And by the way, I'm saying this reading like the same I would tell you at 20. Like it's literally just the cards you're dealt. After this, I highly suggest, with the follow-up, booking a current astrology reading, where basically that reading would be a combination. It's a live one. The first hour is a follow-up you've already paid for. The second one, I'll give you a reduced rate on current astrology, right? Like understanding like how like the current energies, like the book of the now, right? Like with all the predictive techniques that I have. It's very, very different than this reading. But yeah, overall, like just moving, there's this other part of your chart where it's like when you have lots of 12th house, it's about finding, going back to the Sagittarius thing, that higher meaning, which then contributes to your career, which then contributes to your sense of giving back to humanity, right? 12th house plants, it's no secret that they're best utilized, or they're like, it's the house of like repressed energies, right? So when you live a life of service, I'm not saying like means you have to like join it, like change your job and work like a type of career that's like purely based on like charities or anything like that. I could do that. Really, what it's saying that um you need to you need to start getting heartburn, which is very rare. I just took like a Tums. I know it's horrible, but I don't know why I'm getting heartburn. Figure out ways in which you can be of service, right? And the Jupiter in the 6th house, and your North Node is in the 6th house. So over here, 6th house is about many things, but one of them is about being of service. Another one of them is about you know serving others, also serving yourself. And what I mean by serving yourself is having like a routine, because you lack earth, you have no earth in your chart, right? So especially as a Pisces moon, it'll be difficult for you to find groundedness, right? Or find grounding, find balance, find that ability to wake up day after day and feel like the same person each day. You don't have that. So you have to make an extra effort, and Jupiter will give you lots of luck and expansion in that area, right? But to create a life where your spirituality, your service, all that stuff is emphasized, and that there's like a real like because the 12th house, it's like it can relate to like unrealized dreams. That's kind of what I'm sensing, right? Unrealized individualism of the self. So one of the best ways is to give back from a selfless place, a place of selflessness. And that will really help out a lot, especially with the Mercury and the Mars. Because like when you have that higher purpose, that Dharma, that's when you can really activate this Pluto conjunct Scorpio Sun, right? Once you get past all that stuff and learn to use, for example, use the Scorpio moon, or excuse me, the Pisces moon as like this, it's in the 5th house. So it's like there's a need for like creativity. I have my moon in the 5th house too. A need for self-expression, right? Artistic, creative self-expression. I definitely see you as a very spiritual or artistic person. So all this can be channeled into that, into some kind of artistic creative pursuit. Like the Libra also, it's very creative. But in the 12th house, what can happen there sometimes, especially in relationships, is that there can be lots of self-sabotage that happens. And obviously, like it's not something you want, but what can happen is that just like doing things that when you do them, you question yourself, like why did I do that? Why did I make that decision? Why did I go with that? And then it slowly like erodes your sense of power and feeling like power within yourself. So that's why I go back to that relationship thing so much, because stuck in the wrong types, you can really feel powerless and like there's no way out. And that's what that North Node, which is like, the destiny point, like where the metaphoric mountain that you're trying to get to in this lifetime that you haven't been able to get to in past lifetimes. In Aries, it's like really it's asking like what are the step-by-step routines and basics, whether it's health, working out, like what steps are needed for you to get to the full expression of this first house Scorpio, right? Now, I imagine that you would do very, very well in any career that relates in any way to your built-in empathy, but then also being like having all this Scorpio, it gives you this immense power. Sun conjunct Pluto is a very interesting one, because especially with that square to the moon, right? Which, by the way, another thing with moon square Saturn is that it can create depression, it can create melancholy, it can create like in your past Saturn return, so a lot of this has probably been worked through. But and is it? Let me see. No. But yeah, it can definitely create energy where you feel like that sense of it's like your emotions are like it can make vulnerability and emotional, like letting your emotions out, quite difficult. And the Mercury retrograde, which will make one, until they get to a certain evolutionary point, quite shy, I guess you could say. Shy slash what else? yeah, unable to like really express your truth. It's like another barrier to that. So it's like first thing is like, the boundaries, and then after that, it's utilizing that deep introspection to find power. Because on the other side of that scorpionic darkness and this need to kind of surrender these parts of you, these parts of you that are no longer serving you, on the other side of that is immense power. Now, I said I would talk about power. So Pluto is Scorpio, right? Like it's kind of like one and the same if you want to like kind of simplify it, right? And so you're a very, very like deep and intense person. And also like you can be very, very influential. And but also on the other end is that you can be subject to very powerful forces and so before acting on your life. So it's like you can wield great power and influence others or have the opposite. So as a result, relationships, like your environment, all that stuff, it can be very dramatic and life-changing. Also, Sun conjunct Pluto makes someone very, very driven, ambitious. They really want to experience life and go deep into life. And it gives one a lot of willpower, an ability to like probe deep and pierce deep into everything, into the psyche. And that can be a lot for some people, which goes back to the whole partnership thing where it's like needing someone that you can absolutely trust, that's not going to take advantage of your kindness, that you're not going to have to play these scorpionic games. Because Scorpio Venus, where's Black Moon Lilith? It's in Leo. It can be very, very like you don't want to be in relationships where you feel like it's a power game, like you know what I mean, like where you have to like manipulate and where there's jealousy and where there's all these like obsession and like just instability. So really the highest energy of Venus in Scorpio is like this really deep desire that you have to find and be in a relationship that really is like the deepest of deep of deep, deep, deep. And that's what Scorpio is about, right? It's like two souls becoming like coming together and becoming one. So to get there, it's important to understand the whole thing with Scorpio and how on one end, like there needs to be a balance, right? Because like sometimes with that conjunction of Pluto, it can make someone, even with a Pisces moon, if they felt powerless when they were younger, uh, they can just project this massive power uh, that can like make them want to kind of like dominate and be like control freaks, right? Um, I told you it gives you this like very like penetrating nature, but to some it can come off as like you know like very like forceful, almost interfering, obsessive. But like positively, as I was kind of saying, like you have this real ability to read people, and so it's like another big thing for you is like learning to trust your intuition, know that you are right. Um, like you could be very psychic, honestly. But also people who have Sun Pluto can be like politicians and bosses and leaders, and there's tons of leadership power in your chart. And you'll have a huge influence on the people around you, right? And really, really good leadership potential. Now, there's also this element of Scorpio that's very private, right? It doesn't like to just tell its secrets to everyone, and it wants to have friends. It wants to have, like, every relationship in its life. There needs to be a level of secrecy and a level of privacy to it. And it's very, with the Scorpio rising, it'll make you come off like, very, especially with Sun rising, which is just like so much power, like a very, very like mysterious, but like just magnanimous individual. Also, there can be paranoia that can show up, like being lied to, and there can be all kinds of like stuff that happens, like if it's like secret love affairs, things of that nature, taboo things. So yeah, like I said, like it's all about this whole Scorpio process about coming in touch with like the darker side of life and of yourself, and it comes naturally. Like the underworld, like people who have this like very curious about like the underworld, the underground of life, right? Um, so I'm looking for, I'm not seeing any fixed stars that just pop out at me for now. But yeah, there's really this like full on nature, which gets, definitely, and that's what it's supposed to be, right? Because first house is Aries and North Node is in Aries, so you are meant to be this leader, right? Um, but like you gotta watch, yeah, like I said, watching out for those power struggles, for like manipulation, um, like even like escapism to like drugs, stuff of that nature. Um, so yeah, it creates lots of willpower, and overall, as I said before, like this uh, ability to really transform your life. And you'll feel like you'll feel like your life, like, and every person with like a lot of Pluto, every Plutonian can relate to this, like can be separated into like these really distinctive, like different eras, and you will outgrow people, and it can be uncomfortable when you outgrow people, especially if you live, where you grew up and you're, still friends with people that you kind of were friends with before, because you'll be growing and they might not be. So then that brings up new boundaries where it's like, how do you tell the person that you've been friends with for so long, who's kind of like, when you've, received this deeper awareness, how do you kind of get it across to them that you're different, that you're changing? Um, So what can happen when there's a setback, you can go through like a deep period of like of withdrawal, self-analysis, and that's absolutely necessary, right? And remember, Scorpios never die. Scorpios are just always um like they're so regenerative. So that's like the whole resurrection rebirth thing that comes in, right? And it's very spiritual in nature, and things like the occult, the esoteric, psychology, um, even like jobs like solving crimes, like stuff like that can be very, very important. So it sends you into this like journey into the like dark night of the soul underworld, but then you return. Um, So when I speak about power, it's about like finding that power within yourself so that you don't feel like you have to like project this controlling energy on other people. And self-respect, selflessness, as I said before, can really lead to this great influence, even fame, like like real like power in the outer world. So that's kind of like what you're trying to be, is a boss, is someone who doesn't take shit from other people, who understands that yes, there's Libra past life energy, but in order to make those things conscious, especially let's start with the Mercury, it's about diving into the occult, diving into your psychic powers, diving into these things that make you so unique. And with the Mars, it's about diving into your own artistic, kind of creative nuances, like like that fifth house moon. It's really asking you. There's an emotional need for you to be someone who is creative, and someone who is finding things, like whether it's hobbies or whatever it might be, that can outlet, like a creative outlet, basically, or creative outlets. So yeah, that's like a big part of the chart, is overcoming those, and with the relationship stuff, as I said before, like it's all about finding the right partner. Um, with your partner, there should be no sliver of a doubt that this person is going to be the same person day after day, right? They are not going to switch up. They are who they are, and that's that. Let me switch back to face cam, face cam. So let me just see one thing. This fixed. So then, interestingly, your sun's squaring the midheaven. It's also squaring. One second. So it's squaring the midheaven in Black and Lilith, right? So when the sun squares the midheaven, it kind of like the midheaven. Should I talk about the midheaven first? Well, it's in Leo, so basically, like, there's this desire in your career, in your dharma, and your outer life personality to really take these whatever these creative outlets you have, and put them into your dharma, right? Into you can be an artist, you can be like someone who creates for a living, or just someone who's very, very ambitious, right? Um, and that's what this will create too, is this square. It creates a very ambitious person, someone who works super hard to get past setbacks, for their career and for influence. And like with the Pluto's sun, it's like, it's like, it, people who have this sometimes can go over the top, and just want to, like, just step over everyone. And Black Moon Lilith in Leo can be that very thing, where it's like the darker side of your personality can be, always wanting the attention, always wanting, um all eyes on me, that kind of thing. And you got to watch out for, like, being like overly domineering or ruthless when it comes to, like, um all matters of career. And it, like, achievement and all that, it's very important for people who have some sort of midheaven. It's very important for their self-esteem, right? And the, like, failure can be very damaging to it. Also a great source of motivation. So like, that fear of failure can be linked to a fear of, like, losing someone you love, right? Like a father or mother. Especially the father, the son. And the son's, with Pluto, could suggest, like, a very, very strong, dominant, but like it's a conjunction. So potentially a father that really contributes to your sense of strength. So yeah, it's really important to know like if like any of your parents are like damaging your self-confidence. Because that has um a huge impact on your career is the relationships with them. And yeah, there can with this be like this very quick rise to the top. But like I said, it has to be like the ambition can't be like pushed away or by like this like there has to be like this high level of like morality and principles and all that that go into your career and what you're doing. And a lot of times, sometimes like the parents with this will stand in the way of your authentic success, right? Maybe it's like I said, maybe it's very, very different than what their idea is. So it's really important to like look for positive role models. And yeah, and just like mentors and stuff like that. So is my camera looking at me? Yes. So with the Black Moon Lilith, it how do I explain this? It can create like controversy, right? Controversy, public controversy, and it all goes back to what I was saying before, right? About the power dynamics, right? Um, but yeah, it creates like a very feisty, like strong-willed person, as I said many times. A lot of times it's like someone who's like a spokesperson for like the disadvantaged, which is very good for the other stuff. I've been saying I need to turn my brightness down. My eyes are extreme. And there can be some type of rejection, like I was saying before, like with respect to like what you choose to do for your life. But like this is very common with like activists and people who really um do things that are for the greater good, and they can even like put their whole career into that. But then there's all this like criticism and rejection from more conservative people. Um, like yeah, where you feel like excluded and pushed away when you're trying to be yourself, which is so interesting with the whole rest of your chart. So what you have to watch out for is I can't play. I'm gonna go couch. What you have to watch out for is like is not giving into that, right? Um not giving into the expectations that other people have for you, which goes back to the whole Libra thing I'm talking about, right? Um and it's just this deep yearning for freedom, and learning how to like express yourself openly with no shame, like this is me, right? And self-acceptance is like so huge, right? Which goes back to that whole Scorpio going deep inside. And it can feel uncomfortable, right? Because the Libra parts of you, they don't want to disappoint, they don't want to rock the boat. But you're asked to, in some ways, rock the boat. And there can be tension that gets created. But yeah, like to make it work, it's all about like balancing like the heart with the mind and like finding that union between that, right? Like between like, you know, like the words you speak and the way you feel. And just knowing that like only God can judge you. You know, only like people can think what they want about you, but like you're the one that knows. So yeah, like really, I feel like it's like really, really linked to expectations put on you, and then also it's all about like learning to enjoy like these one-on-one relationships with with a level of peace and serenity, but not a pushover, as I said before. And with the Pluto stuff, it's all about looking within instead of looking outside. So yeah. Um, then aside from that, you also have Vesta up there in the 10th. It's close to midheaven too in Leo. So that just will make you like very like very kind of dedicated to your career. Um Very disciplined. You have to watch out for perfectionism in that area of life. And you might find it difficult to sell into like just one career path, right? Um, like yeah. And in Leo, of course, it's all about like when you want to be like it's very entrepreneurial. It's like you work best when you're left to work not necessarily alone, but like where you're yeah, where you are your own boss. Feeling lots of pride in your work, um, and also like having a certain level of fun and playfulness in that area of life. It's 10th house ruled by Leo, ruled by the sun. So it's just, showing how massively important career is. So I could totally see you as like a psychologist, but there's so many different careers. I always like I just don't know have enough like different career potentials, and hopefully, actually we do have the follow-ups. In the follow-up we can talk about that. But yeah, like with everything else, it's a very clear chart to me. So yeah. And then going back to the Chiron, right? Which like your part of fortune's conjuncted. So it's kind of showing that like, with Chiron in the 8th house, there can be like feeling like inadequate sexually, like very sensitive like the Pisces moon, like to the undercurrents and the suffering of the world. And you really want to help that. And you can be a very intuitive healer. And then in Gemini, as I said before, like there could be like even like a communication problem when you were younger with that Mercury retrograde, and just like learning not to trust your own thought processes. There could have been like a difficult early schooling, um, but yeah, you have this real ability to tap into like these deep spiritual ideals, and be someone who helps heal people with your words, right? Um, or like what, or even better, like someone who has gone through this deep journey within themselves, and then who then has something to really contribute to other people who feel like they don't have a voice. And a part of fortune, like right there, it's just like literally saying like you're at your best, like you're in your flow state per se when you're communicating, when your heart and your throat chakra are are linked, right? Um, when you're really really your authentic self, which goes right back to your North Node in Aries, right? Authentic self, being okay with disappointing people. That's just the way it is. And it also comes with like surrender, lots of surrender of the personal ego. And incorporating these deep spiritual values. So, when you lack Earth, like I said, going back to your sixth house, ruled by Aries, right? So ruled by Mars in 12th, it's like there can be some self-abuse behaviors in that quest towards Aries. Aries, your North Node is ruled by Mars in the 12th. So there could be lots of hiccups on that road to pure independence. But it's really about self-empowerment and learning to become like more assertive, really, right? And not be indecisive. Like, and the way to not be indecisive is to have this like this the set of values that you subscribe to, and you base all your decisions off of that really deep moral code and sense of and like almost like rules that you have for your life, for your existence. And not always, as I said before, like considering the needs of others. Like, of course, like that would be something that will come naturally to you, but it's all about balance and finding out your own identity and yeah, like being like a very big initiator in life. So then, speaking of Neptune in the third house, speaking of communication, with Ceres there, like um Neptune in the third gives someone like a very like they're it can create like lots of fog. It can make someone like very artistic in the way they write, the way they speak, but they can be very easily misunderstood. Um, so it's really important to find like a spiritual or artistic pursuit to express yourself through. And you can also there can be like this mental confusion that shows up, right? Like a scattered mind. So that goes back to that need for meditation or whatever it is, hiking, like whatever you do. Like I made a post recently about like when you're missing elements in your chart. So like even like gardening, like touching earth, like anything like that is really helpful. And Ceres down, conjunct Neptune in the third house, that's kind of speaking about how you can tend to like look at like how do I say this? Like look after yourself and others rather than seek nurturance, right? So it's like it goes back to that Libra energy. And you do like really like you are very goal oriented. So like there is like you feel really nurtured when you're achieving your ambitions, and teaching others like when you're like developing self-discipline and teaching that to others, and really teaching others how to achieve their goals, like coach type energy, right? And Ceres in the third house makes someone who likes to pray, who's very good at praising other people, right? um and also making sure that everyone like really like the spreader of information. Conjunct Neptune would be like the spreader of spiritual information and a good networker. So yeah, my lips are getting lippy. But yeah, so then going back, like of course Mercury in Libra, like at its highest is like in the 12th house. It's like how you're able to take all this spiritual information and put it into like human words. So you have like a real chart of like a healer for sure. Um, and similarly, like because like Mercury retrograde people, they spend so much time, uh, kind of in the like early life, like thinking, how do I want to communicate? How do I want to think? What's the right way? They become very good at it, and they're very good at putting others at ease through their way of communicating. Very smooth voice usually. yeah, it's really about, like I said, like finding that voice, finding that voice, finding that power, and like like Mercury, um, Libra does not like arguments at all, but sometimes they're unavoidable. And also another thing with like the whole like spending time alone thing is that uh with Mercury in the 12th house, you might find it difficult to know what thoughts are yours. Like if you're like around lots of people, and especially the wrong types, or like in like a very crowded environment, you might like take other people's thoughts on, right? And like you might have difficulty like distinguishing like what's mine and what's someone else's. So, and yeah, very strong imagination. I would definitely dream journal, and like potential psychic abilities. I need to turn it. I feel that UX on. Where is it? It's like this program that uses iStream. There it is. So, yeah. So I talked about like the Mars, like how like the emotional outbursts can come out of the blue, and then the Libra Mars does not like that. It's so diplomatic, so justice oriented. So, yeah, there's definitely like yeah, like a partner that where you're not like forced to make that decision, or like where there's not pressure. Someone who's like very patient, like like really like ask like what do you really want? What do you really want? Um, yeah, like I said, there can be like a sense of loss of direction with the Mars and Aries, in Mars and Aries. I said Mars and Libra in the 12th house, North Node in Aries. Okay, let's go house by house. So talk about this, talk about that. Yeah, so self-expression is so important. Freedom to like be yourself, as I said before. And really, like I said, it's like you really want to explore your own personal interests and make your own way in the world. So some people might like see that as selfish, but it's like you're meant. It's your turn to be a little bit selfish in this lifetime, right? Um, and really learning a lot through your experiences. So just going, just going trial and error, right? That's what Aries is about. It's about just like trying, like thinking less, not always balancing everything, and just going, and then trial and error. Um, yeah, this is a really strong placement to have like the sun rising. Um, and it's very, very good for like energy, just like overall like vitality, energy, and health, and everything like that in the body and stuff of that nature. And Venus there also, Venus in the first house, is very good for beauty, like really being able to like express beauty like within yourself, having this aura, this energy that like, so it will kind of take away like having all that Scorpio energy can kind of like intimidate people, but then the Venus there can kind of make it a little bit less intimidating, and very attractive energy to people, like very harmonious. I try to say two words at once: calm and harmonious, like demeanor. But like um, having all that Scorpio, you're happy that the Venus is there too. Um, the second house stuff, Palace is there, Saturn and Neptune, or excuse me, Uranus. Um, Palace's second house, I think, is just very good for like handling money. It's really, really good for like for having like original. In Uranus also, you'll be a very like good entrepreneur, like someone who can have like all these like really like just inventive and genius like schemes to kind of make money and to earn and this, that, and the third. And then Palace and Sag is amazing because it gives you the ability to see the big picture, like makes you very philosophical. and you know, really want to like be like the defender of truth and like go in different cultures and see and see how people are. Saturn the second, I always think of it as like people who have that, like they can, a lot of times they come from poor families, and even if they make tons of money, they can feel like they have this like emotional like um, like they can still feel poor throughout their lives, right? So it can lead to like workaholism, so you have to watch out for that. um but yeah, it's not it's a good Saturn placement, because really like what it does, it's in the second house. It's like, so it can make one quite conservative with finances, which you need, because this is the thing. Unaspected Venus, I forgot to say a few other things about it. It's really good for like creativity and just like feeling like you're just like unencumbered in your sense of just like creating, especially at the fifth house moon in Pisces. But also can make one spend, a spendthrift. Even though Scorpio is more conservative, so this will help that out. And Uranus, as I said, like it can kind of make like a minimalist, because it can create like lots of like ups and down changes in income. Um, so it's important to like if like, and then that will be lessened the more you're of service and the more that you're like not overly like obsessed with the external and you know, and everything we've talked about, of gaining as much as you can, because there will be lots of ups and downs, and that's a karmic thing. um yeah, just makes like someone who's very original with very like original value system. But then the Saturn will give you like very responsible, like kind of, my eyes are kind of hurting. Um, value system. Okay, so we talked about all these. Okay, talked about Juno, Moon the fifth. Talk about that. Like also like being around children can be very, very good. Like Moon in Pisces, as I said, like like with so many parts of your chart, in times of stress, you'll seek to kind of be alone, and you'll have a lot of empathy, you know, in regards to your mother, but you have to watch out for like emotional boundaries is the most important, right? Like not being that person that everyone comes to, calls you at 2 a.m. and you answer. Like boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. We'll talk about that in the follow-up. You have to remind me of all this stuff. I'll forget all of it, but it's very important. Um, and also like I always think of that as if your mom does have like lots of like psychological issues or whatever, like people with Moon and Pisces, sometimes they can like cling, like take their mom's shit, emotional baggage, and take it as their own. So it's like very important to like break that up. Um, yeah, I love Moon in the fifth house. I have it too. So it's just like um sometimes it can make someone like want to play too much rather than like have like responsibility. But I don't really see that much in your chart. So I think this kind of just like balances that off. Um, yeah, just very fun loving. I love like you can have a very strong emotional attachment if you have kids to them. They might have like a very like Piscean kind of Neptunian, like very very like us like out of this world energy, very special. And then we see Jupiter in the sixth in Aries. That just gives more like freedom loving energy, like someone who's like a spontaneous kind of truth seeker, who is really like wants to go with the North Node and really expand themselves. But in the sixth house, it's like like I said, daily routine, um, all that stuff, health, service. These can play a really great role in your life. And also like incorporating, this is really important, your personal beliefs into your daily work, in your daily life is very important. So the sun, in Taurus, that speaks to what I said before of like needing that rock in terms of relationships, very, very intense, close relationships, but yeah, where that person is that rock, that solid person that you can count on. And even something potentially like, where you feel very secure, like financially also. We talked about all these. Vertex in Gemini in the eighth, you'll find a lot of your doorway to higher awareness will come through these like very deep and intense experiences, eighth house experiences, which is like literally like I don't have to say anything because it's just like I already talked about all the Scorpio stuff. I don't have to like repeat myself over and over. And then Gemini, it adds it just makes more focus, like I said, on communication. And in relationships, you'll probably be someone who wants to communicate a lot and come off that way. And you'll be very drawn to an area of life that requires communication ability. Whether it's like writing, reporting, speaking, anything like that, teaching, very important. The spiritual journey through and being able to like document it through your words. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Let's look at the stars. I have to close my computer. This F.lux stopped working. Where's my charger? Oh, it's connected to my phone. So cute how my cats, every time I leave like the seat I was on, they always go and sit there. It's like they're just like bathing in my energy. It's so funny. Yeah, so Black and Lilith a little bit more about like just independent 10th house, yeah, watching out for just like wanting to step over other people in career, which I think Pisces moons typically don't do that, but just something to watch out for. And with Leo also, there can be a tendency to think that like you're the one who's like giving, 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 and not getting anything back, but really it's like not like that. You might not be aware of just like how much others are doing for you. So it's like really, really good to like be in gratitude. And like one of the things with Pisces moons, they can square Saturn is that you can get down and be very moody. So it's like during those times to kind of just like make a gratitude list or like pray or do something like that. Okay, let's open this up. So I didn't see any that popped out from my eyes. Okay, I have to look really close. There's so many freaking. Okay. Ooh, I want to look at something really good. So my friend Haley always talks about White Moon Selena. I want to see if she has anything with White Moon Selena and Moon. Okay, white moon, Selena, conjunct moon means you could find yourself easily sensing what others are feeling and can intuitively know how to help. Because of this, there's so much beauty and light behind feeling your emotions and trusting your intuition always. Literally, like what I've been saying, trust your intuition because it's usually freaking right. Okay, nothing descendant. And see, there's so many. If I showed you this on my screen, you'd see this like so much. And there's just a small space. Okay. So yeah, not really any big fixed stars I'm seeing. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. How long did I go? Did I go hour 40? Oh my freaking God. Wow. And it's so dark. Holy shit, I just realized that. But it looks kind of cool. It's like my style. Although I would like a little bit more light than this, but what can you do? Or maybe it's because my brightness is low. Oh no, it's fine. You can see my eyes. Cool. Anyways, hope you appreciate it. Thank you for your patience. I felt really good about this reading. I hope that you enjoyed it. Wait, one second. Okay. Um, and yeah, so with the follow-up, like I said, usually it's like 260 for the current astrology. You said to remind me, I would be happy to do it for 200. So basically the way that works is that the first part of the reading is the follow-up. It's the first hour, and then it usually ends up being like 3 hours. Sometimes it's 2.5. Sometimes it's over 3. The next part is the current astrology. I go through everything from your solar return, which is the chart this year, to your progressions. What's your progressed moon in? That says so much about like your emotional compass and where you're at. Transits, obviously. Like what if you have Pluto squaring your moon? Like what does that do? Annual perfections. If I can explain that. Solar arcs, kind of like progressions a little bit differently. Different. House ingress. What house are the outer planets in? If you have Pluto in the 12th, entering the 12th house, gotta watch out. So many things. It's like the astrological weather report. That's kind of what I should rename it. So hope you enjoyed. It was a pleasure, and I will talk to you later. Ciao.